This is the first budget meeting, October 23rd.
If there's no question, I see people are going forward to the next one
I was
already.
not entered until it had already started at 5
Historical
after.
tax rate. You can see through the years where it's either stayed static or had increases. Right now, 24 and 25 we've been static. We'll see where that all goes after we get through all the meetings. Questions on that from a historical perspective? If not, we'll go on to the next slide. And that puts us to street lighting first fund. Cash balance is $217,000, and estimated expenses $8,000. 2026 estimated expenses $33,000. Submitted first in 2026. Long story short, we end up from $217,670 to a cash balance of $185,670 at the end of next year. This is the fund that last year it was voted that they did not get any real estate allocation. Those mills were taken away because they had an adequate cash balance. That shouldn't be any surprise there. Really no projects going forward, although we do have some LED lights that have to yet be replaced, but no significant impact. Any questions, feel free to interrupt me at any time. I get on a roll. The next page is basically the numbers, some of which we're talking about before, but this is what your P&L or income statement will look like. And again, we have the utilities and the maintenance that total $33,000. And that'll be funded out of the cash balance.
If we were to add any street lighting, is this where the money would come from?
Yes, yes.
This could go down, right, with the solar project?
Yeah,
The expenses.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I glossed over that. Items worth noting, future projects, future expense will go down.
And then once we would start making money with the solar project, that money will go into business.
Where would that money go from the solar?
Yeah, so I guess what will happen though, we still have to pay our electricity bill and then the actual credit will come back to the town. So with that said, it would be split between all the funds paying electricity. So like street lighting, of the 110,000, you only have the 31,000 coming out. So that credit would go back to street lighting. So to Pawnee point, that expense would essentially have to be paid out, but the credit would be coming back. So it'd go away.
Would that be on that fiscal year's thing, or would it be for the next year that you get the credit?
Sunpole Solar is expected to finish in April for the documents that we signed. However, put into service probably won't be until June. So we did not budget anything. Like we're going into next year thinking the solar project isn't happening because we won't have a full year of it. And until we really get the bills back and really know the flow of things, we won't really know how the credits will operate until we actually experiencing, that. So probably for 2026, we'll let everything go. And then 2027, if council wants to divide up that $110,000 with projects, that would be probably the year that we could do that. That would be the first full year. Would that sound like a good plan, Jack?
Yeah, take care of your question. Next fund, fire fund. Just so you're aware of how things work there, this recaps what happens behind the scenes, but we have two loans with the USDA, one of which involves the fire fund. And so since USDA does not have two bank accounts, they only want to pull from one bank account, we transfer money each month from the fire fund over to another account, to the debt service fund, and then we pay the USDA. That's been in existence since we had the loans. The big thing's getting more current, which I'm sure Scott will talk about it in a bit, but we had the large water increase from Veolia, so that took things up considerably from roughly 42,000 up to 59,000 for 2025, just in the fire department, the fire fund, let alone what the individuals in town have to pay. And then workman's compensation increased from 22,870 up to $39,068. Again, Scott will probably have a few words to say on that once we get into it. We continue on the next slide. We're going to have some background fill on the workman's compensation and the water.
Inject whenever you guys want to. I have a couple things I can show you.
Okay.
So, we give me two sheets. The first one that has the red box on it, I have to walk through that a little bit. And my numbers are a little bit more fluid than Jackson, they're more precise.
Can you stand by the owl then?
I can.
Okay. Thank you.
I can owl a ton. Would you like one, Scott? Sure. Mike, would you like one? Okay. And then let me give you one other sheet here real quick. So the Veolia hit that we took was part of a PUC request from Veolia to raise the rates. So what that in effect did was it took water rates up, it took sewer rates up, and it took hydrant rental rates up. So our hydrant rentals shot up last year over $17,000. So you can see the 25 projected up to 26. We took that bump last year. Basically what we did was we removed all of our gear fund to put personal protective equipment on firefighters. It was actually uniforms is what they called it. We took that out and zeroed it out, and that covered pretty much our hydrant rental, $17,000 increase. So then this year, we look at workers' compensation, and going through looking at it, we found out that there was an audit done in the end of 24. L&I, who does this Pennsylvania Compensation Rating Bureau, they set the rates. SWIFT, which is state workers insurance, they are the ones that basically oversee. And we had a $3,900 credit, or excuse me, $3,900 additional from an audit that was done in 24. So that automatically got tacked on to this year. Plus there was a rate increase. If you look at that PCRB sheet, back in 2016 we were at 0.972. Now, we had a small, I won't say small, we had a workers' compensation claim back in 2016. In 2023, that cleared. It takes about 7 years for that to clear off what you see for your rates. They did a review in 22 and then a review again in 23. And they allowed, this Compensation Rating Bureau allowed the increases. Now, this is not just us. They do this through L&I across the state, okay? They allow the factors for volunteer fire department to be bumped up. They can either do a bump or to a 25% cap, and it works on population. Our population range is between 10,000 and 15,000. Okay, so these rates are based on that population, and their formula was which they call a modification. We went from 1.098 to 1.373, which was actually capped. It was supposed to be higher than that, but it capped it at 25%. This next upcoming year, there will be a small reduction, 1.36, which puts us at that $39,000. I think it's $39,701 or something like that, as far as how much they are going to whack us for insurance. The incident that we had in 2022, so we've had 2 incidents since 2016, separated years apart. The insurance claim that we had in 2022 was $17,000. We are going to pay more in 1 year than that claim cost us. Everybody at SWIFT that I talked to, I've been talking to them for almost the last month. I actually asked them to do an audit to figure out from their underwriter what was going on. Why is this so drastic? It's 150 something percent, almost 158% increase at the end of the year in our budget this year. Okay. They said they agreed that it's an astronomically huge jump. They actually asked us to look at our rates again. We are going to have a summary done. Again, we're going to do a review. The underwriters are going to do a review at the end of this year. We don't anticipate any jump from an audit. But this is what we're stuck with. So then that transitions over to the other spreadsheet that's got the funky red box on it. So before we knew that the prices were going to be that steep with our workers' compensation, if you take a look, our adjustment from 25 budget on the one side to the 26 proposal could come out $2 to the good. We could get our budget in line with the $2 to the good, right? That's pretty fine. We were doing pretty good. Then you whack that $17,820 increase. All those black numbers, stuff that I had to take out of the budget in order to get us down to where we would be $595 in the negative. That includes taking $1,000 out of gas, oil, and grease, taking that whopping $25 out of postage, $5,800 out of our maintenance for our equipment, all of our training budget, all of our fire prevention, and taking all of our general expenses. That leaves me with just enough money to do fire truck maintenance, ladders, hoses, and pumps, and put some things on the road and put gas in them, or fuel in. That's about it. So, I don't, we're doing everything that we can possibly do on our side as far as trying to fundraise, defer costs, try to find other sources. I'm constantly applying for grants. This year, we were able to put 9 firefighters in turnout gear, but that was because we got a $45,000 grant from the Arconic Foundation. Between them, our fire department budget, and some town funds, we were actually able to do 9 complete sets of turnout gear. I've gotten a few other grants. We're probably in the ballpark of about $70,000 in grants through other sources. But the numbers that are coming in at the millage we're at, it doesn't look good. And I hate to say that because we're trying to be as fiscally responsible as possible, and yet we keep getting money taken out of us. Now, on the hydrant portion, just so you're aware, part of the PUC requirements for them to raise rates was they had to go through and they had to flush the system, test the system. So this last round, normally they would go through and do hydrants and stuff during the day. This time they did it at night, and we kind of wondered why. They were taking flow ratings off of the hydrants because PUC said you need to find out what's good and what's bad. So in the town we have these fire hydrants now that are painted yellow with red tops. Those fire hydrants are on 4-inch laterals with 4-inch mains, which to me and to the PUC are really not sustainable for fighting fire. I would like to propose that we get that list of bad hydrants and we go back to Veolia and say, if they're not sustainable for us for firefighting, I don't want to pay rent on them. If I can't use them, if they're no good to the community, other than maybe putting garden hoses and stuff up to them, I don't want to support them. I don't want to pay for them. Now, mind you, some of these are dropped in neighborhoods. Like, there's one at the corner of 4th and Wood Street. There's a lot of houses between Spruce and Chestnut. So, hopefully they're having a remedy for some of these hydrants that are bad. If you go to West Main Street, you'll see some on West Main Street. Now, they've replaced down in that area. They've replaced on 3rd Street, but they have not yet replaced on Main Street or back on 1st Street. So, working with Veolia is tough. It's not the local office, it's their Harrisburg office. We are paying an exorbitant amount for fire hydrants. It's like having a Corvette in the garage that you can never run. We have a good hydrant system, but if we do too much, if we were to hit a hydrant and train somewhere in the town of Bloomsburg, we have to be kind of specific because if we hit them, if we stir it up, then everybody's water's muddy because the lines are you know, they're not always the best. So I don't know. They do work with us locally. The project that was done to take Bruins Dam out was going to require us to have a dry hydrant replaced at the west end of the creek. The geologist that was there, once the dam was taken out and the creek receded, all of that is bedrock. Every bit of that down there is bedrock. So that would have created a lot of disturbance to the geology of blowing a hole in bedrock to put in a dry hydrant. So they were amicable, and they got us almost $10,000 worth of equipment that would basically simulate the same thing as a dry hydrant. So they are willing to work with us. And in the past, if I've asked them to replace hydrants, last year we had 2 hydrants that were on good lines that were junky. One was at the airport or on Harriet Street, and one was at the town pool. We asked them, can you please put new hydrants in there and turn them around, because that's part of the rural water supply for us. And when I say rural, we would use those to fill tankers to run them to other areas. Okay? They are doing well with that. They are doing some line replacements. But once again, the taxpayer got hammered 3 times with that one PUC rate. You're paying more for your water, you're paying more for your hydrant, and you're paying more for your sewer, because when your water goes up, your sewer goes up. Now, unfortunately, looking at the budget and what we have to work with, and I've kind of alluded to this all along, that we've stayed at 1.6 mil for about 12 years. We need to increase our tax milling for fire service. If we don't, the budget's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. And then we're going to get to the point where we're not going to be able to maintain our fire trucks because we can't put the money into the PMs. We can't get our pump certified. We can't get our hose certified, ladder certified. I'm not the one that wants to sit here and say that we need to, you know, put the burden on taxpayers, but we're going to spend more time and money trying to fight what's coming than we are by asking for a tax increase. Nothing is getting cheaper. Obviously, we've seen that in the fire truck industry, which there is Congress and legislation that is trying to quell that right now, because they realize that literally you are pricing volunteer fire departments completely out of existence. To the point where even there are municipalities that are large municipalities, you're talking larger cities, that are not able to support ordering fire truck trips because they're just that expensive and lead times are just too far. So Jack and I have talked, and Lisa and I have talked a little bit about some of the numbers. I just want you guys to know that we're doing everything that we can do on our side of things to not affect taxpayers, number one. Number two, to be fiscally responsible with the money that we're given, and to put it to the best use back into the community. Anything that we do down there, as far as budgetary funds that we would use from here, it's communal. Nothing ever is a person. It's nothing. It all goes into here to get guys trained, which there's a whole new training structure coming from the state. We just found out last night at the county chief's meeting. So things are changing rapidly. Sometimes it takes 3 to 4 years for change, and if I think some government shifts have pushed a strong line of change, which is going to affect us. That's why I tried to get some new turnout here this year, because in order for me to get a firefighter certified, I have to have an FDA compliant turnout gear to go into a live burn in order for them to be certified. And it's tough. So the numbers are in front of you. I will answer any question that you have. I was not looking forward, honestly, I'm not looking forward to coming here. And you know, budgets are usually not that bad for me. This one stressed me out when the numbers started showing up and I had to start slashing the budget. And we went back twice to the firehouse with the officers and administrators and said, is this amicable? What can we do? And we made a commitment to defray as many costs as we can internally, but again, we're still killing ourselves trying to do the funders report. So trust me and trust us that we are actually trying to do everything we can. We're not sitting on our laurels and just hoping the money shows up. We're actually trying to go out and find it, and we're trying to do what we can as best we can. We are maintaining our current ISO Class 3 rating. which is helping insurance rates for people who would open a business in town, or, some homeowners will take that PRV. It's a rating that that will help them. ISO will probably come in within the next year or so again and rate us. Hopefully, knock on wood, we may go up to ISO class 2. ISO class 1 obviously is career fire departments, and they're the highest that you can get, but that's going to help us unlock a little bit more levels of grants to maybe get some more grants, and it'll also help further insurance rate reduction. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Do we get all hydrant lines that are affected by this? Are they being replaced with what they're doing, what the oil is doing around town, or
So,
are they just gonna sit there?
some of those areas, from my discussion with Julia, sorry, I gotta come towards the owl.
Yeah, that way they can hear.
I gotta come towards the owl. So some of those areas in town are probably slated for upgrades. They know pretty much the areas of town that need to be upgraded. I would tell you that the west end of town project will be a little bit more intense because that's gonna have to go through PennDOT approvals, because the water mains run right down to 11. So I don't know what that one looks like. My question then is, if we've got fire hydrants in town, say, the one on 4th Street, the one at Wood and 4th. If that one's so bad, if it's on a 4-inch lateral, can we just not tear that up and connect that to the line that's there? The one on either side, if it's good, you think the one in the middle should be good as well. So in conversation with Lisa, we're just about ready to pull the trigger and file right to know paperwork. Because we want to know what we're getting and what we're seeing. Once again, it's all public record. They're probably going to throw 1,000 roadblocks up at the lawyer that says you're not going to get the information. But we might have to try. Because my conversation I just had with the water company was, if you put 2 brand new hydrants on the street and they look identical, I can't see through the ground. I don't know what the flow rate is. If I hit one that gives me 900 gallon a minute and someone dies, that's a problem. That's your problem, not my problem, because I have 2 fire hydrants in the street that look identical, and I can't tell the difference between one that's on a 12-inch line and one that's on a 6-inch line. You're not giving me any information. So they're always like, well, we can't guarantee how much water is going to come out of it. I need to be able to justify even a shot in the dark. If I have a 5-inch hoop there and I have a 3-inch hoop here, I'm shooting for the 5-inch hoop every time. So I need to have some of that information, and I think we're real close to pulling the trigger on pulling right now, because I'm pretty much tired of not knowing. We're paying a lot of money, and the hydrants are supposed to be flushed twice a year. I can't imagine that for $59,000 that we're not paying at least 1 or 2 people to go out and flush hydrants. But when they flush hydrants, we don't get any report from them. Unless we're out stalking them, we get nothing. Unless we go out and we do our own background investigation. I will tell you that the line that's going down Market Street is an upgrade. That's a 14-inch line going down Market Street. Every time they do something, they're dropping new hydrants in. New hydrant there where the willow tree came down, willow tree, and then there's going to be another one down further at the corner of 4th. So they're replacing hydrants on lines that they're doing, yes. Anytime they have the ability to tap them onto a bigger line, they're doing that as well. So they are doing things behind the scenes with maybe some of our best interest in mind, but they're really not giving us any information. Unless I'm standing there going, hey, Pete, what are you doing? It's nice to know these guys, because some of their guys will let you know what's going on. But without seeing what's in the ground, we don't know. And I will tell you, Jim, your area of town and Justin's area of town, that's probably one of our worst areas right now, is anything below 10th Street. It's crapshoot. We don't know. There's older hydrants in the ground. They've replaced some of them, so obviously the lines must be decent. But there are a few areas in town. Obviously, if you remember the Larry House fire, nothing happened there. They had 4-inch and 6-inch lines in the ground that were corroded down to less than 4 inches, less than 3 inches. We didn't have adequate water supply. Well, that stirred up the pot. They started to replace some lines. And I hate to say it, but once again, out of tragedy comes, production.
Didn't they just work in this area up here though, by Wood and 4th? Who's doing all that work?
They're doing gas.
Oh, okay. That's not cool.
No, that's all gas.
Okay.
So, and like right now, so that being said, my question to Tate is going to be, listen, they ripped up the roads, they're going to do some repaving. How about you take a look at that hydrant that's bad and get it replaced? Or find out what's wrong with it? You know, because we didn't know, they didn't know. When they went to flush hydrants, they found out the hydrant at 4th and East Street was out of service. They couldn't get valve. So there was no water. I'd have hit that hydrant for a fire, I would have opened it up and nothing would have happened. They found that out because they went to flush the hydrant and nothing happened. Well, we were, yeah. Now they've gone through and fixed it, they dug it up and they fixed it. But, yeah. So, long and short, we're paying for a lot of stuff. If you look at the controllables in our budget and the non-controllables are completely outweighing what we control on them. And I really don't want to start to sacrifice our preventative maintenance program because that's going to bite us in the long run. Right now, our fleet is maintained to the point where those apparatus do not cost us that much money. And the people that come in to work on them are very appreciative of that because they go to some places that they don't do the preventative maintenance and they're dumping tens of thousands of dollars into their farm trucks. So,
the water increased this year, and we didn't really get a notice, right?
We-
It just was like,
No, so like they are required to give out notices, so we got a notice, but there's not anything we can do about it. Yeah.
so I guess there's probably nothing to stop them from again this year increasing the water.
I think it's set until the
Yeah.
following year. I think the notice, I'd have to pull it.
right, because they have the rate set for a certain period of time because when they went through for the PUC to support them for the rate increase, they cited, they wanted to reclaim costs for capital projects. But once again, that was set for a period of time. They can't raise the prices or their increase the rates for a period of time.
So, and then I guess you're gonna have to make all this up with fundraising.
Somehow,
Is that
yeah.
your plan?
Well, so yeah, so that $1,400 you see in there for training, that used to pay for a package that we would get through Bucks County Community College. What we would do is we would spend $1,400. That would provide us with 200 instructional hours, no matter how many students we only put in seats. Bucks County just got new administration. Their administration went through. We just met with their head training instructor last night. Graduated from Bloomsburg University and was a member of our fire department. Matt Hampshire. We met with him last night at our county chiefs meeting, and he explained to us that their new administration said you have a horrible profit and loss statement in your training division. You need to fix it. So their fix is we are no longer going to be able to spend that $1,400 as a package. We are now going to have to place a $30 per student fee on every class that they take.
Wow.
So either we put that back on the student and say, you're paying $30 for the class if you want it, or we try and provide that. Now, we do have our Firearms Relief that gets money every year from the state, cycles through the town, goes to the Firearms Relief Association. We have gone to them very, very sparingly because they have been dumping large amounts of money on cooperative agreements with us on fire trucks and stuff. When I say that, our air packs have a life cycle. The framework on them is good, that will continue, but the cylinders that go in them, they cycle out. They're only able to be either for a matter of 15 years. They're coming due. That's going to be $150,000 to $160,000 hit for them to replace air cylinders for our air packs. Just to give you an example, a firefighter outfitted with an air pack on today is $12,700 per month. That's not including thermal imaging camera that they might carry, hand tools, hand light, air monitors, any of that stuff that we are now called to do on a daily basis. Because we are now up to running 450 fire calls a year. A lot of people that we've talked to in the last month cannot believe that we are not career or paid. We're not. We're not charging you money. We're not going to give you an invoice. We pay taxes. We come and show up. We do what we do. We eat out on the roof. We did what we could do, once again, to save off of a workers' comp claim. I got to the point where I'm like, listen guys, we're risking a lot to save a little, and I hate to say it that way, that sounds very callous, because we tell everybody an animal and a pet is just like a family member. And I would do everything that I could do to get that off the roof if it was emergent. But I've never seen a cat skeleton in a tree or on a roof. Good, we'll find it. So, our Firemen's Relief Association has been helping us out greatly. There is a bigger project at hand. That's for discussion for another time. It'll involve council. It'll involve probably ComD, but that's for a different time.
And what's your take on hydrants on business properties?
So the way that I look at it and the way that I would believe that it needs to be structured is a hydrant is placed in a thoroughfare or a street that is going to provide for rental or for residential properties, that be paid out of our fire fund. If a hydrant is required for a business to make a profit, I believe that should come off of the business and not tax. To me, that's not fair. To me, you want to drop a hydrant, that amount of money might be an insignificant amount to them, but that's huge to us. We want growth, and I get it, but it seems like every time we want growth, they pull us over a barrel. We either do it in lieu of taxes, or we pay for a service that they should be paying because we want their business. Just remember, in lieu of tax payment on anything does not have a fire millage attached to it. It goes into your general operating budget. You do not see a cent from it. So that affects us as well. And that's that. Jack had asked me about capital projects. That paperwork comes out every year. Do you want a capital project? I can't really put in for a capital project because any of those funds are coming out of the general budget. And usually the response is we collect millage for fire service, so we need to work within that budget, which I completely understand. But that's why I won't ever turn paperwork in for any kind of a capital project to try to keep it within what fire millage is there. Well, that's not. It's not. It truly isn't. And every conversation that I have with anybody who's asked questions, Mark Gardner came down to the firehouse and sat with us for a while. We basically went over everything that we do, what we have, and what the budget looks like. And once again, that had a better outlook than this outlook when I started getting whacked with $17,000 extra dollars coming out of workers' comp for what was considered by the insurance company a very minor incident. Now, mind you, when I say that we're trying to do everything we can, our 2 fire trucks after that incident were spec'd out and designed with a feature to mitigate that accident so that it doesn't happen again. And it didn't cost us that much money. It cost us about $1,500 to mitigate that. To our credit, we're running a junior program, we're running training out for what new, and we're still running fire calls, and we are staying safe, which is what we need to do. We're not putting any burden back on with workers' comp claims because I find out that they take an astronomical amount of time to clear off of your policy. Like 7 years, they're off the policy.
Yeah, I mean, that is an interesting point. So, I mean, we're paying for a workers' comp claim, basically the amount that we owe is for the claim entirely. So why, do we have to put those through insurance? Because it sounds like it costs us more to put it in your insurance for minor claims than it would to just pay.
I don't have it.
Yeah, so if they get hurt, even on training or a call, we have the responsibility to put that through workers' comp. Yeah, it's not like a case by case, like, oh, this one's so severe, this one's going to be reported. It's even if you get a cut and they want to go to the ER for a Band-Aid, like, we got to report it. Yeah. And talking with our broker, so we were paying a broker fee to Brown & Brown for SWIFT. That was reported in the general fund. What we'll do for next year is we won't have a broker fee, right? So that will save us, I think it was $1,800. But with that said, all the municipalities in PA have migrated to take firefighters off of their normal workers' comp, and then shifted that to SWIFT. So it's a state program just for firefighters.
And the reason why that is,
Yep.
just inject real quick. So the reason why that is SWIFT is the only insurance out there that will cover the myriad of cancer presumption that is out there for firefighters. So cancer presumption, the things that we come in contact with in a burning building, hazmat incident, the firefighting foam that they just had, that they just put a big, huge recall out with the PFAS and PFAS. So basically, any of those cancer presumptions are covered under the state workers' compensation. Not many other, if any other, insurances will cover it. So if we have documentation, which our firefighters provide to the PCP, that says this is my occupation, this is what I do as, not a career, but this is what I do, then if certain cancers start to pop up on the radar, then they're covered under the workers' compensation for cancer presumption. To that point, in order for us to stay safe, once again, we have an industrial washer at the firehouse. It's a washer extractor that's set up at NFPA standards to launder our gear to take those contaminants out of our gear. So we're doing that step as well. In a reduction, not having the broker is going to reduce a little bit. Also, we have a mechanism through SWIFT. There is a lady now that runs their safety. I don't want to trip over her title. It's in the safety area, but what she does is she basically oversees safety committees, quote unquote. She's from the Nanticoke area. I believe she said her father owned a fire store down here in the plaza at one point, and she actually got uniforms for her dad when the fire department was Sunshine Laundry. So she's familiar with us. She's got heartstrings. I had a conversation with her. She doesn't Bloomsburg quite on. She said, I will work with you to do anything we can. Prior to her, they had a myriad of people that were not responsive to requests. And when I say that, we have requested information. We can form our own internal safety committee at the fire department, formed of social members and active members. And they had to take training. This training had to be done in person, by a guy who sat down and said, I'm certifying you as a safety committee. That has now changed. We've never got information from that gentleman. Now she has given us information to where we can gather these people that want to be on our safety committee. We can do a online training to get them certified. We can have that committee in place in January. Come March, we get a 5% reduction in our workers' compensation. Now, that being said, that will accumulate a reduction of almost $1,985 off that 39. I think if I figured it out, Jack, it's right around, we're down around $33,000. We can get it down to 33. So once again, we're trying to do everything we can do on our side to reduce that cost to get it down. And that's, like I said, it's a conglomerate of social members and active members that go through. They look at what potentially they for the facility. They look at the facility. We'll do near misses to see what was done. They might review some fire calls and say, what did you do good? What did you do bad? Which is what we do after every fire call. We go back to the firehouse. We go, okay, listen, did anybody get hurt, killed, whatever? Let's go over the good, the bad, the ugly. We have basically a hot wash. So this is now a more formal process to do that hot wash. So hopefully, putting some extra steps in place, we can get a little bit more of a reduction. I will apologize, even though we don't have any control really over it, other than keeping our people safe. I didn't see that one coming, and honestly, I talking with Jack and Lisa, we did not see that coming at all. When I applied for my state grant, because it's the state government, it threw up a flag and said that we had an outstanding invoice that was due. I wasn't going to get my $15,000 in state grant money because we had something that was due. We didn't know about it, but here it was $3,900 from the audit the year before. So once that was paid and clear, my grant went through. It went to the comptroller within a few weeks, and we got the money in our budget. So that was one that I can honestly say we did not see coming.
We at first thought back in January, February that we were just invoiced wrong because what we thought going into 2025 budget-wise wasn't matching the invoices that we were getting. So Jack was on the phone with the state with several people. They are going through a conversion at their level, so we were hopeful it was just an accounting issue, right? Like we were invoiced the wrong amount. Come to realize their mod factors have increased and the audit charge. And at the end of the day, that's our workers' comp carrier. I have no other carriers. All the other insurance companies have dropped firefighters off their plan because of the high claims. So there's really no other options.
But how many of these claims are we going to water as far as?
Just one.
Just one.
We only have one, and it wasn't even a severe one.
Do we expect that to?
No, hopefully, and so what happens is you, if there are no more claims, it'll slowly start to decrease. It'll go down, your mod factor will go down, hopefully. But once again, learning more through the state, it honestly doesn't necessarily depend on just us. It depends on how the fire service does as a whole in the state of Pennsylvania. And that's unfortunate that we can be as safe as we are and have one incident where you can have one incident at another community that have 4 firefighters that are injured, and I can't imagine. And so they did tell us if we were to count in our census, if we were to count the 9-month students in our census and push us up over to 15,000, our rates would almost double what we're paying. So thank goodness we don't count it on our census. Starting your budget sessions off.
What was, don't we pay 1.6 mil? That's what we pay now. What would like 1.8 mil? What would, on the fire fund, what would raising that a tenth of a mil? You know, what would that produce? Like he said, we've been at this rate for 12 years.
About 12,000, I'm gonna say.
Right back to the
12,
Yeah, so about half a mil is probably the shit where you want to be. I mean, 12,000.
Oh, okay, we're at 1.2.
No, two, probably 24.
That's my request, and after sitting down and talking would be to potentially post the 0.4 to get up to 2. And we're bound, we can only go to a certain number, which I've kept
3.0 is the cap, and then if you had paid ambulance, 3.5
We
is
have
the cap.
combination service, we love an ambulance / combination service, we go above that threshold, but we're literally only just above half, maybe going towards half what we could accumulate. But once again, this problem didn't exist as bad prior to 2011, 2020, because a lot of property off the tax rolls after the flood. All those properties that go, churches, government buildings, federal land that we've accumulated and stuff, that's just, there's no liability being accumulated off of those properties. So, we gotta take that into account. Plus, once again, honeysuckle apartments, they in lieu of taxes.
Has the mill gone down significantly since 2011? I'm not sure if that's true. What I've seen.
So every year, like when I first started, I think we were at 123,000 for a mill.
Yeah.
Over the lifespan of what would that be? 11 years, it only went up $2,000 for a mill.
Rate of inflation, but
Right.
I don't think it's gone down.
It went up slightly. You'll see from 23 to 24. It went up like only $300, right?
Yeah.
This is probably the first year in a while that it actually went down. And what that means, for 1 mil,
Yeah.
it went down, was that, we went over that number. It was $14,000 overall. When you take this and multiply out by 20.787. So when we were looking at it this morning, we're starting already in a deficit because our tax base decreased from last year.
We lost 2 acres to the free.
Right. And, some of them go off because of nonprofits. Some of them go off. I've seen a lot of veterans disabled file for tax exempt at the county level. So you see those drop off as well.
Yeah.
And, Wise Markets, that decrease is in our tax base. So that is a huge decrease overall. So you have all these additions, and then the decreases, you have people making renovations to their homes, going through codes. Codes is reporting that to the tax assessment office. they're adjusting that, but at the end of the day, we're still lower than where we were last year.
But I mean, it's not something like significant, because we're still talking about.
Right. So even if you go from 1.6 to 2, $50,000 is what your outcome is.
Yeah.
Prior council always liked to have about $200,000 in the fire fund, because if there was ever needing to have an engine be purchased, that would be basically the down payment to have an affordable loan. And even at that point, the interest rates were probably where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see the interest rates.
Well, no, for us, the interest rates have stayed pretty steady. They haven't jumped too awful
I
bad.
see it.
We've tried, like with the last purchase, that started back in 2022 with the combination of the university, the town, and the USDA purchasing the engine and the ladder truck, trying to partner with someone else to defray the cost
Finally.
a little bit. And we're working towards continuing to do that in the future. Like I said, there's something in the works. It's a cost, but it's a lot less of a cost than what we initially would have floated. And that one, we'll try and maybe propose at ComD.
Okay.
If you want a preview, I can give you a preview of what our thought process is, but it's not going to ComD.
Let's have Jack go over the next
Yep.
slide, because I think you touched on our current loan and the university contribution. So this next slide will tie well into that. And then I think we can hop back to that with this balance. Might help them generate.
The next, go ahead, question. Next sheet, fire fund, it goes through, what we see is the cash balance as you take it from 9/30/25, which your cash balance is $809,323. And we show the effects on that cash balance. I'm talking on the right-hand side of the sheet, where we start off with the 809,000 and we take out the USDA fire payment, which is supported on the left hand of the sheet. That's really the USDA payment on the loan, that 101,000. The loan was for more than that, but that loan also included equipment for other departments other than the fire department. But the effect on the fire department is $101,144 each year is a loan payment. The incoming part of it is the university has a contribution of $30,000 that they make. And that continues down through the year 2032. Also, when we did the budget using what Scott has just laid out to you, we had a shortfall of $23,201. Again, if you're looking at that chart on the right, you'll see that number budget estimate. That is money that would have to go to the fire department from the general fund to cover their expenses, the budget, which is primarily the workman's comp and the water bills are the big hits. That walks you down through from $809,323. If the budget should stay the same, the amount that the general fund puts in of $23,201, we know that won't happen, but we made the assumption carrying it forward through all the years until we get down to 2035 when the USDA loan is paid off. So it just reinforces what Scott's already painted out as a picture. You know, it's a tough deal.
And this is even projecting the figures from 2026 and Scott being kind of frugal, right? So even with raising it from 1.6 to 2, that essentially is only setting aside 70 grand each year for an apparatus. And over the years, the apparatus went from a $400,000 price tag to $850,000 price tag, and that's a normal, not like bells and whistles.
Oh, a cookie cutter engine right now is $950,000.
So $950,000. So even if we're putting $75,000 aside, even if we pay off the two apparatus, come 2035, we won't really have enough to cover the next apparatus. And I think what Scott wants to go into next is they have a replacement that is needing to be replaced by before 2035, if you want to go into
Yeah,
that.
so if you look at what the town's normal, what we consider, I won't say responsibility, but what the agreement has been between the town and the department was the replacement of engines and ladder truck. Okay, so you've got your three engines and the ladder truck, which are our frontline pieces as far as pumping water and stuff. On the USDA grant, we replaced engine 23 and truck 42, which were a 2001 and a 2004, okay, because they were getting aged. We didn't want to nickel and dime, but we could still get money back out of them, and I think we did astronomically well looking at the market, what we have now. Trust me, I keep an eye on what happened and what's continuing to move forward. Engine 24 was not purchased by the town. It was purchased by the fire department at $424,000 because there was an issue councils ago that wiped out our fire in effect. Engine 25 was $685,000 in 2014 when we purchased it. That would be the one that would be coming up for replacement. Okay, it was 2014. Even if we spec it out now, it takes about 4 years for them to build it. So you're talking probably close to 2029, 2030. At that point, you're now getting out to 16, 18 years old on fire pit. They are built to last, but they start to nickel and dime you, and then your equitability curve drops off. Once you get to a certain point, it loses its equitability. You can't resell it for what it would be worth. Now, that market has slowed down and it is holding on. Here's where I'm at. To replace engine 25 right now would be $1.3 million. Okay, that's a $1.3 million. Whatever we could sell it for, you're still only taking it down to about $900,000, maybe. Okay. Our rescue truck that sits down at the firehouse right now, that was purchased by our Firemen's Relief Association in 2006, is due to be replaced. That truck is going to come in at around $900,000 to $950,000. What we would propose, or what I would like to propose, is the department itself would be willing to take our state grant that we get at the tune of $15,000 to $20,000. It ranges depending on their funding, but it's usually a minimum of like 15 and upwards of 20. We would be willing to take that money for a chunk of time. The sale of our air truck and our rescue, because we're going to combine the two units to lower our maintenance costs and combine the units together. And we have a $260 to potentially a little bit more $1,000 commitment from the Firemen's Relief Association. So with their allotment that they get in from the town, they are going to cycle away a certain amount of money per year, a fund of about $60,000. And with that fund set aside and the sale of the two apparatus, that's going to accumulate almost $500,000. The department would be willing to go in for upwards of $100,000 for our state grant. What I would like to ask is, instead of us coming to the town going, we have $1.3 million fire truck that needs to be replaced, we could come to you and say, while the market is super hot on those kind of prices, we can go out there and say $400,000 to $450,000 from the town on our next purchase versus 1.3. It's probably a little bit of an easier pill to swallow. And then down the road, when we have to replace that 1.3, we can get the Firemen's Relief Association to then kick back in and partner with them. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to a position to where we can make this, and once again, 110%, stay equitable with the town, not cause a huge disturbance, but we've got to keep our fleet in status. We've got to keep it up to standard, because if we don't, it's going to be bad. Now, this is our rescue truck. Our rescue truck does vehicle rescue, hazardous materials, rope rescue, it does trench rescue. It is basically our toolbox on wheels for the things that go bad in the town and where it has to do. Like if anything goes south at Autonia, or down in Alcoa, or Pony, or I just want to say, that does all the technical stuff down there for extrication from people from equipment. Like I said, all of our vehicle accidents, all of our debris and fluids cleanups. It is an essential piece. It is what we consider one of our frontline five.
And they're 1992 and a 2006.
Yeah.
I think that's the kicker. Like, we still have old apparatus on our.
Our air truck is actually, that was purchased by our Farmers Relief too, and it's a 1992. So we're looking at taking the portion off of that. Right now, as it stands, our air system that is on that chassis is probably going to sell more, or we would. It's probably worth more than the truck itself. 1992, it's hard to get parts for that truck. We've gone to Napa for, we had a radiator reservoir that we had to go to Napa for, and they're like, we're getting real close to you not being able to find parts for this truck. So what we're looking at doing is combining that over into our rescue, reduce that maintenance cost on that, and get it into one apparatus that's new, which then comes with warranty, comes with usually less issues because it's newer. It's, once again, moving forward, we're trying to make it amicable and fiscally responsible. And like I said to Lisa when I talked to her, Lisa and Jack, it's a lot easier for me to come to you and go, listen, I only want to ask for about $450,000 versus going to you and going, listen, our 2014 rig is $1.3 million, we need to replace it. Because that's next due. Just so you're aware, that 2014 did have a brake fire on the front end because the air distribution block on it failed and the brakes locked up. Now we had that we took care of and got all that taken care of, believe it or not, at no cost to us because we partnered with someone else to take care of that replacement. So now it's got a whole new brake system on it and it didn't cost us a dime to our benefit. So that's what the outlook looks like coming down the road. We have already started to put a committee together just to start precursor looking because once again, build times on these things are almost 3 to 4 years. So even if we signed paperwork today, if all three entities signed paperwork today, we would not see that fire truck until the year 2029. That's what the industry is at right now. And a new rescue truck is about $950,000. It's about the same as a pumper. And once again, to our advantage, we paid $685 in 2014 for a fire truck. We paid 2.8 something for 2 fire trucks. This is only $400,000. This is actually less of an ask than anything we've done back to 2014. Actually, prior to that.
And I would just say, like, the cash projection that we have on this slide here out to 2035, this is to meet our liability with the current debt. So if there's any type of, request to go towards that path, what Scott just mentioned, we have to have the fire fund increase to set money aside because we still have to meet our obligation with the current debt.
And this is a conversation that we had last year budget time, that the realization was the way that the industry in the world is we're probably going to end up paying on 2 fire trucks at one time over a period. Now, that being said, we've also looked at the industry and how good our apparatus are, and we're proposing that we push off the replacement of engine 25 for a number of years. We're going to look at trying to keep that apparatus in as good working condition as the people who inspect it say that it is. Once again, trying to keep costs down. Anybody has any further questions? I think I've talked enough, and I honestly did not want to push this budget session out this long because there's a lot that needed to be thrown out there, and it's not an easy consideration. And my wife will tell you that I've stayed up till 1 and 2 in the morning working on stuff. And obviously, you see my emails at 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning. So I averaged about 4 hours of sleep a night trying to figure this out, and I'm doing it for $2,500.
I will say when I read the cat article, I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I bet workers' comp was in his mind. So, yeah, and it's a cost, like it's a direct cost for it. So, the next slide, Jack, you have prepared kind of the revenue and expense with the summary.
Yeah, that recaps a lot of what we've gone through. I see Bonnie already flipped through it over there. But that goes down through with all the numbers, the revenue, obviously, and those expenses mirror just what Scott had in his budget handout earlier. Going down through, you can see that workers' compensation, for instance, is at $39,071. And it comes down to the bottom.
Yeah, but we don't get to
Where
see
you
that
see
slide. Thank you,
The
Lisa.
highlight in the expenses category, at least to me, aside from the workers' comp, you see the hydrant service is in there for a considerable amount, 59,900. The transfer to debt service, which we talked about in the preceding slide, that's the USDA loan. And falls to the fund balance, that was a shortfall that comes out of the general fund of $23,250. The fall goes according to plan.
The 1 year, it might have been 4 years ago or so, the engine just completely blew in one of the trucks. 2017. I guess it was a few more years ago. So I remember he came into council and described the incident, and it was kind of like our pool pump going, right? Like we had nothing in the bank account. Like council at that time, I think we were still paying on our 2014 truck. So having a cash balance, I will definitely say, for either a planned future apparatus, because we don't want to have cash in the bank account with no purpose, right? But I think direction is needed from council to say, you know, are we going to go the $450,000 route? Or are we going to go the $1 million route? Because we still have to plan for that cash somewhere to fit it on the scale somewhere along the way. So any feedback that you guys have, if you want to talk about it, think about it until the next committee meeting. But we need to plan ahead.
The reason why the partnership is those large items, just like I said, that $150,000. So if you look at the commitment for the Firemen's Relief Association, with the sale, the commitment of funds, and the purchase of those air packs, you're talking almost $750,000 that they're going to put out in the next, 4 to 5 years. And, that's why I was trying to partner with the town to make it a little bit more equitable.
And I don't want to leave out on the last two apparatus purchases. We did have a $100,000 anonymous donor that went towards it. We collected all 4 years at 25 grand. So that is already calculated into the total. But we did have partnerships with the last purchase.
Listen, if I could sell advertising space on them, I would. I've tried. I tried to, listen, if the fire truck was made out of Alcoa aluminum and I would go to them and say, listen, we have an Alcoa plant, town of Bloomsburg, what would you be willing to do? Here's the other factor that I have to keep in mind. Our firehouse is now a quarter century old, and we're trying to do a capital campaign for repairs and upgrades to our firehouse. Because it's not that easy when an HVAC unit on the rooftop goes down, and sometimes those are $30,000, $40,000. So I think, and it's a kudos to us, and this is my only prayer, I think we are doing phenomenally well in the time we are at, trying to be as frugal as possible. We don't go out and willy-nilly spend money. If we do, it goes back into the community.
Other comments on the fire department? Fire fund?
You should end on a positive note. So
We will. I appreciate your time.
I will definitely.
You get a lot of detail.
Yeah, I will definitely say last year, Scott had kind of a projection sheet and everyone looked over it and then the tax mill was held the same. But I do think we have to start thinking about what is going to be next, because when I see 1992 and 2006 still on our schedule, those are still fairly old, in a fire environment, because the new trucks will probably be more efficient on gas. I don't have that comparison, but overall, I think that would help with the maintenance of the budget too.
Yeah, we can end on a positive note. The recycling ban
Oh yeah.
actually got more money than our expedition did.
over.
That'll help defray a little bit. I cannot believe that went for over $5,000.
Just transferred it this morning.
What was the end at the end?
5,300.
I would not guess that because we were ready to get rid of it for 500.
Carpenter bought it from Valley Forge. So,
Awesome.
yep.
And not to say that's not uncommon because Berwick sold their old water rescue truck, their F-350. I see it rolling around as a contractor's vehicle in the town of Bloomsburg. So it's not uncommon for contractors to do that. But I'm thankful that we did almost $5,000 more than we anticipated for the sale of that. But once again, it was kept in good condition. We kept it in decent condition. And back when Larry was here, Larry did all the maintenance on it. We kept it up and running and kept it exactly where it needed to be. So, thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. You're here now, but I appreciate all of your time and whoever's listening.
John and Jackie are on too. Yep.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I will say kind of the action items that we went over, we'll still kind of give feedback to council on it. So the hydrant flow tests, that's a project that is still active. And then the hydrants to move away from businesses, that will come back to committee at council level and then the safety committee. So those three actions, might save a little bit, but it's not going to help get another 50 grand into the budget.
Thank you. And like I said, if you guys have anything after this intermission or whatever, just send me an email or shoot me a text.
Thank you, Scott.
All right.
Scott.
Thorough job,
Thank you. Have a good
as
day.
always.
Bye. No more trees in my heart.
Last particular segment, commercial revolving loan. Fund number 31, we start off with some history in the front where the $1 million initial balance came from. I'm assuming it's there for a refresher, but I'm assuming you may already know that. It was the last budget meeting. Then we move on to the next sheet, eligible funding. Again, that was presented at the prior year. Where it all comes down to is the money in this fund that began off at $1 million is being going to the Water Mitigation Authority, the $44,000 a year. That's what plays out on the last sheet, the commercial revolving loan, where it's simply the interest on the loan of $7,400 projected with the beginning balance, and then flood wall maintenance of $44,000 a year. That's relatively simplistic, you would think. However, there's recently been an email come out regarding a possible increase in that going forward in future years. At 44,000 for 2026. Any comments on that?
Nick looks like he has a comment, but he's not saying it. Nick's like, I'm not going to say it. Here's a question that comes up every year when we talk about this one. If council is faced to have an increase or once these funds are depleted, right? The ongoing conversation is, does council want to see that as a tax bill overall for the whole resident base or bill separately to the residents protected by the flood wall? And every year it comes up and I haven't gotten really a clear direction as to pros and cons, like even as a resident, how you guys feel. And I don't know if you guys want to kind of weigh in on what your take is on that, but it's easy for, I think, people to stay quiet when they don't have to run, right? But I think, Nick, we could benefit from your from your standpoint of you're done at the end of the year. You keep saying that.
I've answered that question, I think, pretty candidly over the years.
Okay.
I think that we're one town and we have to treat it like one town, and I think that any sort of costs that are accumulated by a portion of our residents, when we split it out just to those specific residents, I mean, we're a town. We're a town. It has to, I think it has to fall on everybody, whether or not we think these properties are worth defending is part of our town and preserving is part of our town. So I think that's the easy question. The hard question to me is just like, once again, we have a fee that is being imposed by an outside authority that we have no control over, that they're talking about raising and can raise at any point, whatever. I mean, that stuff drives me nuts. Because what you do about it is you're just sort of like, extracting taxes from our revenues at their discretion. There's not really anything you can do when they say they're going to raise it, right? I mean, you can't say, I'm just not going to pay that. I wish you could. You can't negotiate with it. You're like, well, we're going to keep it at $40,000. I think that I was in favor of using this fund for that payment, especially to get it up and running, but I think we're going to have to phase it out over years rather than have it all at once. I think that'd be the smart move here. But, not going to be my call, so it's okay. But I would think that you'd want to decrease the amount coming by about a factor of about $10,000 per year as time goes on, and get residents used to having it part of the budget.
So the one thing that Jack and I discussed, like if it isn't an overall tax bill, and it would be a new category. So under the state, a category for flood protection is allowable. So that would be a new category that council would have the option of setting a tax mill. The only thing I would say is, if council doesn't want to go that direction and then only properties that are protected by the flood wall are billed, Jack and I discussed about using Berkheimer, right? So similar to what we switched for recycling this year, it would be a bill that the homeowners would get. If they do not pay, then they are sent for collections to Creditech, the sister firm. So that's kind of our step where we have two options for council, and we are ready to enact both. We just kind of need direction as to what the outcome looks like. So, or what you guys want.
What are we talking about for the town of Bloomsburg right now?
I don't have the exact count.
3,000, so about 3,000.
Yeah.
Oh, overall, I thought you meant the ones
so,
protected.
So I mean, that's one of those things. If you're splitting up a $40,000 charge over 3,000 parcels, that's a lot easier. What's that? Yeah, but we're still talking about. Rough back of the envelope math here, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to how many houses are potentially protected by this flood wall. You're talking about, I don't know, a couple hundred, maybe less than 1,000 total, definitely less than 1,000. You're talking about a much bigger hit for those people. $40,000 over that is going to be like, a couple $100 at the very least, not up to $500, which I just don't think is sustainable and nothing you want to do to your citizens. I don't see how that would be.
Well, and we were touting because we did all these requirements so that their flood insurance rates have lowered, and then you're gonna slam on back with this.
Yeah, and so that stuff goes. I mean, there is a flood wall. It requires some maintenance. Definitely, that's all true. But like, this is all part about being a town that's all a waterfront town. And people get benefits from that, whether or not they live in those areas. We have our park as part of that. Certainly, like the people who live in Bloomsburg chose to live in a waterfront town. Long term wise, like the flood wall stuff is going to be the way this town still exists. So I think that investing in it, trying to make it a community-wide effort is the only way that this community is going to move forward.
Yeah.
So that's me.
Thanks for your open answer. It's definitely something that, if council wants to change going forward, we can change that even for next year. It's just presented this way because that's how historically, council wanted to see the fund depleted over time.
Yeah. Well, I think that we're in such a hole, it seems to me, like for this year already, that adding another $40,000 or a portion of that we need to make up in millage is going to be probably not the best thing for next year. If that'd be my opinion. But I still think that a slow drip rate of increase over time is going to be the best way of getting people used to it. Yeah, you don't want to have like nothing, $40,000. It's fine. I think if you do it at a couple $1,000s per year over the next 20 years, that sort of thing is going to be enough that you're hopefully not going to notice it very much.
So that if we do end up getting more flood protection at the end of Bloomsburg,
Yeah, exactly. That's gonna
it's gonna increase
that's gonna increase that stuff too.
44,000 to who knows what, you know, in the end.
I think Bonnie and Jim, you guys were on council, and council at this time said they didn't want to keep raising taxes though every year. They wanted to set it kind of flat for the next 2 years. That was a discussion. So when you look at some of the historical values, you know, to Nick's point, like raising it slightly every year, but there was discussion in the prior years, like 2019 and 2020, it was held the same, and same with 21 and 22, because I think going into it, they said, well, if we have to raise it, you know, what's our debt look like? You know, is that contributed to the debt? And especially back in like 2016, council at that time wanted to see debt service like hold steady in the debt service. So there's kind of different takes on council each term. But that's a good one to slightly increase it over time.
But we still have an upper limit for increases too. You know, like, you know, if you look at from 2012 to 2025, you've got the millage going up by over 10 points, right?
Mhm.
Like that is a rate of increase that's going to quickly run into the upper limit. What is it? Is it 25 or
30 for the general fund, and we're over halfway there. Yep.
So like you know, until you get a reassessment, that's just going to be one of those things that you're going to run up against. You know, and I think that historical tax rate, that was when we had state and federal government that functioned fairly well. And I don't think we're going to have that for the next couple of years at the very least. So I think that you're going to see some local tax increases that are going to be, frankly, like, you know, pretty shocking. Because we're going to need to fill in some of these funds. And we're seeing already things like insurance funds and the water company sort of just pulling out as much as they can from the town. I don't think that's an accident. I don't think it's going to stop.
Mm-mm.
I have a question, like going back to the street lighting. What's that cash balance for? Like, it's a pretty significant cash balance.
Yeah, so historically, our taxes, the street lighting, we did not have any taxes in 2025 because it was discussed like, hey, we have a cash balance there that we have to drain now. So it was once discussed that, hey, we might want to do a project on Market Street. Like that was discussed. So it was almost like, well, in 2024, let's have the taxes collected anyways until we know what exactly projects for lights we want. I think we're at a point, and Jim, I don't know if you're at this point, but I think the rest of council is at the point where if we can't afford what we have currently, we shouldn't add to the lights, right? And I think that discussion keeps coming up. I think there were areas that even the prior chiefs have provided areas that could probably use extra lighting. It was always discussed, but we never put in a project. Those projects would have to mean, like, if there's no PP&L pool, like getting service, getting electrician, like it's not just a $10,000 project. It would probably be a loan, 20 to 30,000 for those installs for PP&L power. Some of the areas that were discussed, like up by the crosswalk, the Lake Street Road going up to the campus, the prior chiefs had said that area is fairly dark when you have students or citizens walking back and forth. But, you know, Market Street was an area where it's like, hey, this is our town road. We want it bright like East Street. If you guys want to see a project, that's where the funds would come from. But if not, you know, I think what Jack's proposing is keeping it as a zero tax base for next year and draining that cash.
Okay.
And we were in the process of trying to raise it. That way we could get the LED project, and then the American Rescue funds came, and then all the LED lights came from the American Rescue. So we're kind of in the process of eating out that cash balance.
So could that cash balance be used for other things?
It cannot.
Be for the street?
Yeah, unfortunately, once it's collected from a tax bill for a specific purpose, it has to be dedicated for that purpose. Wayne Creasy did say that there's about 9 other locations that have to be converted to LED. Brady is going to look into it as to what the costs are, and then we would be fully converted throughout town to LEDs. We still have a huge inventory of LED lights. So if one would break, I don't see the maintenance line item, as Jack mentioned, you know, it's at $2,000 because we have spare lights on hand too. But I think the goal is to drain out that cash balance, and if you guys don't want to set a tax mill, that will help you out for next year too. It's no savings, right? But it's at least keeping zero at zero for next year. But those would probably be the top 3 easier ones. So the next meeting would be, I would probably say the next meeting's about at least 2 hours, Jack, I would say.
Mhm. Well,
So,
but yeah, and there were some issues, when you see that last page, that indicates what will be coming up. The recycling, library, child development, Norris Rock Pool, airport, and there has been discussion before on the pool as far as wage rate increases, the possibility, that type of thing. So we'll have slides on that. Airport expansion, of course, with the new hangar being considered, that type of thing. But if there's any items that come to mind that you want to have addressed specifically, make sure I include the information that's not already done on it. So if you have any specific items, that's fine. Otherwise, adjourn. Okay.
no comment, right?
No comments yet.
Anyone online have any comments or any citizens to say anything comment-wise? We got a hand raised.
Hi, Lisa. I was unable to view most of the slides because you didn't put them on the screen for us to see them. So can you send those to my email so I could post them online?
Are you speaking or?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Can you not hear me? All right, I'll just email you, Lisa. You can't hear me, I guess.
Jackie or John or anyone online, can they hear the speaker?
This is Mark. I can hear her clearly.
They're asking for slides. Is this Dawn? I know Jack
Yes.
sent out an email and copied you yesterday on the slides.
She got an updated, readable version
Okay.
this morning.
Oh,
The slides were blank. Okay, Jack said he sent you an updated slide
Okay.
this morning, so we'll make sure, two hours ago, we'll make sure that you get the slides. Anyone else online?
Thank you, Mike.
A question, is it possible to
And
put
Mark-
the Zoom?
It sounds like we cannot hear you, so if you want to chat on the box, we'll make sure that your questions are answered.
Okay.
I don't know why we can't hear him. All right. What I'll do, Mark, is I'll follow up with you after the meeting. If there's no one else online raising your hand, can you put Zoom link for meeting on the website? I certainly can. Under our council page, the Zoom link is always there for permanent linkage, but I can certainly add it to the calendar. Thank you, Mark. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Nice to see you.
Adjourn.